What's good, Commanders fans? So Adam Peters has made a move, not an official move, but basically a move giving Jonathan Allen permission to seek a trade. This is per Ian Rappaport. A couple other NFL beat writers, reporters have come out with this report as well. And we kind of saw the writing on the wall a little bit. People were talking about this before the season was over. We've been talking about this for the past few years. Even Jonathan Allen brought it up himself on the radio when we were bad. Now we're a good team, so now I feel like he wants to stay. Because we just went to the NFC Championship. And this is what all his rants. It's so crazy because he went on these post-game rants all the time and, going crazy or getting upset and stuff like that, which I don't blame him for because we were losing so much. And he was a part of losing too, so he's not innocent. But now that we're a good team and we're going to be good for the next, 8-10 years, as long as Jaden Daniels is upright, which he should be for the next 8 to 10 years, the next decade, he can't enjoy that. But he did get to an NFC Championship. I will say that for him. And it is crazy to think about, we had 4 first-round picks on the defensive line. Montez Sweat, Chase Young, Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen. The last man standing right now is Daron Payne, and that's it. So we'll see how long he's going to be on the roster. He's going to be on the roster for the foreseeable future. But we'll see what happens after next year. So Jonathan Allen, let's not sit up here and act like he's a terrible player, because I know a lot of people act like that, like he's just awful and trash and stuff like this, just because he has not lived up to the Bama wall or the four first round pick hype that we had on the defensive line. Let's not act like the man is awful. He's a good player that can help a team out. Is there some games where he's disappeared and he's not impactful? Yes, that's true. So the Commanders can save $16.3 million in cap space if they were to release or trade a defensive tackle Jonathan Allen before June 1st. He has 1 year left on his contract, which is the year coming up this season, where he's going to make about $15.5 million. $22 million cap hit with a $6 million dead cap hit if we do release him. So like the post says, $16 million. He'll be a free agent in 2026. 2 Pro Bowls, had a season with 8.5 sacks 1 year. Yeah, he had a season with 9 sacks in 2021, 7.5 sacks in 2022, 8 sacks in 2018. Rookie year, only played 5 games, got injured, but he was durable for the most part. Played in 16 games in 2018, 17 in 2021, 16 in 2022, 16 in 2023, 8 games in 2024, and he came back from the pec injury. He's a tough guy. He is a guy that you do want on your team, in my opinion, just mindset-wise and just toughness and stuff like that. He does check all the boxes. Like I said, he's not a bad player. I do think some teams are definitely going to be interested. I don't think it's just going to be we automatically release him. I do think some teams are going to answer the phone, whether it's a 5th-round pick, 4th-round pick. I don't think you get a 2nd-round pick or a 3rd-round pick. The consensus is saying, Daniel Jeremiah has said that this is the deepest defensive tackle class that he can remember. So the timing of the trade is tough, because a lot of teams are just going to be like, hey, I can draft a guy. Or I may just sign Milton Williams in free agency from the Eagles, or Osa Odigizua from the Cowboys or something like that. But for the most part, teams are just going to, draft a defensive tackle instead of trading for a guy. So, let's see if we can get a 4th. I know Jordan Reed was talking to J.P. Finlay, and he said that, you could possibly, he think for John Allen, maybe it's a 3rd or 4th rounder if it happens. So if we get a 3rd, that would kind of recoup what we lost from, I'm not going to say lost, but we traded a 3rd for Marshawn Lattimore. If we can get a 3rd back for Jonathan Allen, I think that would be a win for Adam Peters for sure. Just getting the value before the contract is up. And this is kind of like getting ahead and getting in front of things, like things that previous regimes haven't done, like Brandon Sheriff. We kind of let that linger, franchise tag him over and over again. Some other guys that I can't remember that we should have traded before it got to the point of franchise tag and doing that whole dance and stuff like that. Kirk Cousins, they should have traded him years ago and stuff like that. So I won't bring him up. But you guys get the point of trading an asset or trading a player before the contract is up. And they weren't going to tag him or anything like that. But I'm just saying you trade him before his contract up and he's a free agent. And then the only thing you get is a compensatory pick. So this is good if we do get something back. I think if a team, if the market value for him gets very dry, like the market, and the best we can get is a 5th-round pick, honestly, I think you just have to take the 5th-round pick. You just have to take the 5th-round pick. So the next coming days, and this is where stuff happens. We talk about the combine coming up. Now, Adam Peters does have his presser today, so he's definitely going to talk about it. They're going to question him about it and the information. So I'm not sure if he can speak on it right now. I think he can. I think he can answer it. But I know other players, you can't talk about other players clearly at this point because it's tampering and stuff like that. But I think he can talk about Jonathan Allen at this point about the situations that's going on. But like I said on the radio, he said he thought about being traded. This was before we were bad. And he said that on the fan. I remember him saying that. And then during a fan meet and greet, he was like, he wants to stay and all this stuff when we got a new owner, new coach and new GM. He was like he wanted to stay. So, but I wish John the best, man. I really do. If he wanted to restructure and come back, I wouldn't mind that because we do need depth at the defensive tackle spot. Johnny Newton, I guess he's going to be our starting DT. He did start a bunch of games last year, but he had an up and down season. It's not like he had an elite or great season to write home about. I thought he had good moments. So we'll see if the second round pick can develop. He did make a silly mistake against the Steelers, but he made some good plays for sure. Sheldon Day stepped up, but is Sheldon Day really a legitimate starter in this league? And we still have Deron Payne in the rotation. So do we draft a guy? Do we bring in Osa Duguzua from the Cowboys, or do we draft one of the top defensive tackles? I do like Josh Farmer out of Florida State. I did see some of him in the Senior Bowl. I haven't seen a lot of guys. Jordan Phillips from Maryland, 6'1", 318 pounds, defensive tackle, and then some of the top DTs, Mason Graham. We're not going to be able to get a lot of these guys at pick 29, but like in the 4th round, 5th round, drafting a defensive tackle. I really didn't want to have to draft a DT in this draft. I wanted really to focus on offensive line. Some people are saying that, hey, maybe you could trade John Allen and throw him in the Myles Garrett trade. I highly doubt that. That's what people have been saying for the last couple of weeks, but I don't see the Browns really wanting Jonathan Allen. But if you do trade John Allen for a 3rd-round pick or a 4th-round pick, you can throw that pick into the Myles Garrett trade potentially. And then also, JP Finley tweeted out, he said, source confirms John Allen has permission to seek trade. Played well in playoffs. He did play well in the playoffs. I give him credit for that. That Lions game played really well. And him coming back, like I said, I give him a lot of respect for coming back from that injury and playing in the last couple games of the playoffs that we had, the last 3 games of the playoffs that we had. He came back and was impactful. Like, he made plays. He made some plays. It wasn't like a bunch of sacks or anything, but he was getting pressures and pass rush win rate and things like that, slowing down. Didn't really slow down the run against Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, but as far as pass rushing, he did a good job against the Lions. Eagles game, not so much on either side. Nobody did at all. But JP Finley also goes on to say, perhaps Allen is a trade piece for another player too. Cooper Kupp or Deebo Samuel among many available in trade markets. So I would be upset if they traded him for a pick and then you traded for Cooper Kupp. That's a lateral move. That's he's a wide receiver number 3 in the league to me. You don't trade John Allen and then trade that pick for Cooper Kupp. I feel like you just wait for Cooper Kupp to be released, which I think is going to happen. Same thing with Deebo Samuel. You don't trade unless it's like a 5th round pick, then okay. But if it's like a 4th or a 3rd and you trade that pick for Cooper Kupp or Deebo Samuel, I think that's bad asset management in my opinion. I just feel like those 2 guys could be released, most likely in my opinion, or you could get them for a day 3 pick, like a 5th round pick or something like that. That's just my thoughts on it because I'm not super high on Cooper Kupp or Deebo Samuel. I understand they're upgrades from what we had last year, and there's reports that De'Ami Brown has a strong market in free agent trade, that he's going to have a strong market in free agency, like a lot of interest and whatnot. But so like I said, Cooper Kupp and Deebo Samuel they're upgrades from what we had last year. I understand that, but they still are not. They're wide receiver number 3s in my opinion. I feel like we can do a little bit better than those guys to help Jaden Daniels out. But we see the market for wide receiver drying up. Like T. Higgins franchise tag most likely, and then Chris Godwin's trying to work on a new deal with the Buccaneers. So it's kind of like you got to take what you can get and draft somebody as well at either pick 29 or the 2nd round pick, even if we have that 1st round pick, because we may trade that. So we'll see what happens with that. But so I mean, shout out to Jonathan Allen for being a good person. Like, I thought he was always good to fans and stuff like that. Never really any bad stories. But, he wasn't the post-game speech or the pregame. Terry McLaurin stepped up. He was doing the pregame speech now. Frankie Louvu doing his Ric Flair after game. So it just changed. The dynamic of the team changed. And then he got hurt in the Ravens game where he got pancaked and his tricep was torn on that play. And I was at that game against the Ravens. But he had a good game against the Browns. He had a good game against the Cardinals. Like, he had a slow start where he was like not finishing plays on Baker Mayfield in that first game. But, the next 2 or 3 games, he started to play better and was finishing plays on the quarterback. And then unfortunately he tore his pec against the Ravens. But on a selling point, if Adam Peters does want to sell, which he is selling, just talk to GMs and be like, hey, he was one of the most effective pass rushing defensive tackles since 2021. He's in the top 10 with Chris Jones, Cam Hayward, Jeffrey Simmons, Javon Hargrave, Aaron Darnold. But this is back in 2021, which is 4 years ago now, 3 years ago. So, but like I said, if Adam Peters wants to sell him, he has something. Allen ranks top 10 amongst defensive tackles over the last 4 seasons in total tackles, solo tackles, sacks, pressures, tackles for loss. So there's a lot of things that Adam Peters can be a salesman on in trying to trade Jonathan Allen for sure. So we'll see. Like I said, 1 first-round pick is left, guys. Let's see how long Deron Payne will be on the roster this year and next year. So you guys let me know what you guys think. As always, Commanders Kings tonight. We'll definitely be talking about this in Adam Peters' press conference as well. Hello, Commanders. Peace.